There's a man you've met who never raises his voice. He doesn't argue. He doesn't threaten. For years, he was the nicest man in the room, the accommodating one, the reliable one, the one who never made anyone uncomfortable. And then something changed, quietly, and now he walks into that same room and the temperature drops. People sit up a little straighter. Nobody can quite tell you why. He hasn't done anything. That's exactly the point. You've felt it in someone. And if you're honest, really honest, there was a night once when you felt the beginning of it in yourself. Nobody wakes up one morning and chooses to become dangerous. It happens in the spaces between decisions, in the small moments you stop apologizing for taking up room. And by the time you notice what you've turned into, the people around you already have. They just haven't worked out yet whether to fear you or follow you. Because the man worth watching is never the one you see coming. He isn't the screamer. He isn't the one with the visible rage or the warning signs stamped across his forehead. The one who changes the trajectory of everyone near him is the man who has quietly decided that his own needs matter more than his own comfort. And here's the uncomfortable part. That shift isn't evil. It's not even bad. Jordan Peterson has a line, the one he builds a whole chapter around in 12 Rules for Life, that stops most men cold. A harmless man is not a good man. A good man is a very dangerous man who has that under voluntary control. Read that again. He isn't telling you to be gentle. He's telling you that gentleness which comes from having no teeth is worth nothing, that the only virtue that counts is the capacity for harm, held deliberately in check, which is exactly why the shift is morally neutral. A surgeon needs it. A father standing between his family and a threat needs it. A man finally walking away from a life that was quietly killing him needs it. But the same capacity, the same refusal to stay harmless, sits inside the man who becomes genuinely destructive. Same power, opposite direction. And you can't tell which man you're looking at from the outside. You can only tell by what's running underneath. So let me show you what's running underneath. Most of these men went through something we'd call a breaking point, but it's really a breaking through. Picture 20, 30 years spent accommodating everyone else's comfort, your partner's preferences, your boss's timeline. You built an entire identity out of being the reasonable one, the one who doesn't make waves. And then one ordinary day it lands. All that accommodation had a price. It cost you your spine. It cost you a kind of self-respect that no amount of being liked could ever pay back. That recognition is a threshold. Most men cross it carefully. They set a boundary. They have the two hard conversations. They learn to stand up without setting fire to everything around them. That path is real. It's lonelier and slower, but it's real. Some men don't take it. Some men taste what it feels like to stop apologizing, and they never want to go back. And the wiring that let them break out of one cage doesn't come with a built-in off switch. The man who finally stood up to a controlling father, who felt 30 years of weight lift off his shoulders in a single afternoon. That same internal setting can quietly harden into someone who won't hear his partner, who waves away his kids, who treats every person in his life as an obstacle between him and what he wants. He's not broken when this happens. That's what nobody tells you. Notice what he hasn't lost. He can still read a room in seconds. He clocks exactly what you need and exactly how to get what he wants from you. He understands your feelings perfectly. That was never the problem. What's gone quiet is the part that lets your pain slow him down, which is why the warning signs are so hard to catch. Almost none of them are red. They're gray. It's the man who keeps his word to his business partners, but breaks it at home. The one who's warm in public and contemptuous in private. The one with a clean, coherent philosophy for why the rules that bind everyone else don't apply to him. And you can follow the logic. That's what makes it dangerous. He isn't irrational. He's completely rational. Inside a frame he built to have himself always come out right. And there's one behavior that comes before all the others. It starts with being certain. You become certain you're right about something. Your direction, your read on people, your idea of what a man is supposed to be. And early on, that certainty is healthy. It's the thing that finally gets a man off the couch. But certainty casts a shadow, and the shadow is the slow loss of your ability to be wrong, to revise, to genuinely hold the possibility that someone else sees something true that you don't. Once that door shuts, you've stepped across a line, because now anyone who disagrees with you isn't a person with a different view. They're an obstacle, someone holding you back, who has to be convinced, managed, worn down, or removed. And the man doing this never experiences himself as the villain. He experiences himself as the only sane man in a room full of people quietly conspiring against him. And if you've ever watched this happen to a man you used to admire, tap the like button. It puts this in front of someone who's living with him right now and can't name what changed. The dangerous man has almost always built a story where his aggression is really defense. His manipulation is really necessity. His coldness is really discipline. Every behavior has its justification, and the whole structure is airtight. You can't argue him out of it, because it doesn't live in the reasoning part of his mind. It lives in his identity. It isn't a belief he holds. It's who he's decided he is. And here is the trap folded inside the trap. Some of that story is true. Some men genuinely do need more backbone. Some genuinely do need to stop chasing approval. Some genuinely do need to let go of people who are feeding on them. Peterson maps the turn from there better than anyone. It begins with real suffering, curdles into resentment, and resentment reaches for deceit. The quiet lie you tell yourself that your cruelty is justified, that the rules are rigged, that you, of all people, have earned the right to stop playing fair. They don't start as monsters. They start with a legitimate wound and a story that slowly gives them permission, which means the real question was never about him. It's about you. Can you feel the exact moment assertiveness tips into aggression? When self-respect curdles into contempt. When a boundary quietly becomes a wall. That line is thinner than you think, and it moves. The genuinely dangerous man almost always started somewhere you'd have understood completely. A real grievance, a real need, a perfectly valid reason to change. He didn't flip a switch and turn evil. Nobody does. What actually happens is a series of tiny internal agreements. An agreement that your needs matter more. An agreement that other people's pain is somehow less real than your discomfort. An agreement that you've earned the right to be merciless because you spent so long being merciful to everyone but yourself. And every single one of those feels reasonable in the moment it's made. It feels like self-respect. It feels like finally being real. And by the time you've signed enough of them, you're a different man, and you never once saw the day it happened. That's the mechanism, not evil, erosion. So understand what I'm telling you. This man isn't dangerous because he's broken. He's dangerous because he's working perfectly for himself, with a clean disregard for the cost to everyone else. He's moving with total clarity towards a goal that simply no longer includes your well-being. And the most important thing I can hand you tonight is this. That man could be you. Not hypothetically, decision by decision, starting with something entirely legitimate. The question was never whether you have the capacity. You do. Every man does. Peterson's answer isn't to make yourself harmless again. He spent his whole career warning men against exactly that. His answer is to make the capacity conscious. You should be a monster, he says, and then you should learn how to control it. You don't kill the dangerous part of yourself. You look straight at it, you admit it's there, and you take responsibility for it, which is the one move the destructive man will never make, because taking responsibility means being able to be wrong. It's why the sixth of his rules is, set your house in perfect order before you criticize the world. So aim up, Compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not to who you can beat today. That's not soft. That's the hardest thing a strong man ever does. Because the man who's crossed the line never believes he has. He always thinks he's won. He mistakes the silence around him for respect, when it's really just people learning where the exits are. The one thing he lost on the way is the humility that would have told him. Guard that. It's the whole difference between the two men. And they start out identical. You don't become dangerous in a moment. You become it in 100 small agreements you never notice signing, which means you can unsign them the same way. One honest, humbling decision at a time. So if one line in this felt a little too much like looking in a mirror, leave one honest comment below and just name the agreement you've caught yourself starting to make. Someone reading tonight is signing the exact same one. And if you want to go one layer deeper, everything I said tonight about the shadow, the part of you that's capable of harm, has to go somewhere when you refuse to look at it. It doesn't disappear, it leaks out sideways. I made a whole video about that, about why men perform instead of just saying what's actually wrong. It's on the screen now. Watch that one next. I'll see you there.